welcome to episode 21 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk, and today is Sunday the 6th of August and it's been a gorgeous sunny day. We've been up to the North Norfolk coast to a place called Sheringham and walked along the beach. It was lovely, hence the fluffy hair and hence I'm recording the podcast a little bit late. So, thank you so much for joining me if you haven't watched before, and thank you for giving me another go if you've already listened to my ramblings before. I'm talking about knitting and spinning and embroidery today, and actually a little bit of crochet in Blast from the Past, and a little bit of confessions as well, even though I bought stuff at the Fibre East last week and showed it on my mini podcast. Anyway, I shall talk to you about my finished objects in my knitting section first. So I've been working on some Rose City rollers as part of our summer sock along and in the Ravelry group, and we've had lots of people knitting lots of either shorty socks or ones that are made of lace. So these are my Rose City rollers. So Rose City rollers are a free pattern on Ravelry, and I can't remember who wrote the pattern off the top of my head, but I'll put it just down here. Definitely recommend the pattern. It's really cute with this lovely rolled top. The only thing that I changed a little bit was knitting it for 2 inches at the top there instead of the 1.5 that the pattern suggests, but it is a free pattern so I can tell you a little bit about it. So I did this because the lovely Tina from Simply in Stitches said that when she'd knitted hers she wished she'd had it just a little bit longer up the leg, and I'm glad I did because they're really comfortable and I really like them how they are. The only trouble is, because I had to knit a little bit longer here, and also because the yarn is slightly thicker and I kept the same stitch count that I normally do with thinner yarns, it isn't too big, it's just about right, but I ended up using more yardage and hence my toes don't match if you look carefully. So I matched up the rest of the sock, and then I got to here on this one and I discovered that I was at the end of the yarn. So I'd taken I'd round up some of the wool so I could get to the colour to match on the second one, cut that off, and then I'd only got that ball left to finish off the toe, and hence I didn't have the same colours to go to match this one. So I just done a different toe and that looks a little bit different, but at least I've got a pair of socks instead of 1.5 because I only got one ball of this yarn I think. But I'm really pleased with how lovely and squishy it is. It's the Knit Picks Felici in the Lemonade colourway, and I spoke to you about it on the last podcast, but I got some, I think it was in the bubble colourway in the Knit Picks Felici, and in the darker sections, so it was a sort of dark pink, well a bright pink, and where there was a white section near the bright pink, there was speckles of it in the wrong sort of stripe, but this doesn't happen with this one at all. I was really pleased with how it came out, and I think overall the Knit Picks Felici is really cost effective and it's really squishy as well, so I definitely knit with that again. So I think it's just the odd yarn, the odd colourway that comes out with the speckles of the different stripe within the lighter stripes, if that makes sense. So I definitely knit with this again. So that's my finished objects for this week, and I'll move on to works in progress. So the lovely Ruth at Knitterarium was asking for test knitters for a new pattern she designed, and the pattern's called Wildflower Honey. And they're absolutely beautiful pattern, and I've knitted it up so quickly because it's lovely. So there's a lovely textured stitch here with a rib section, and then there's a plain section here which Ruth suggests you use like a speckled yarn, so I picked a speckled yarn out there and a coordinated solid so you can see the lovely textured stitch pattern. So this is West Yorkshire Spinners, and the colourway, because they're actually numbered rather than named, I'll just show you the label. That's what it says on there. No idea what they actually call it. They do have names for their colourways, but they don't actually write them on the ball, which is mad. So that's their purple I used for the coordinating heels, toes and cuffs. and I used this lovely yarn from Peggy May Yarns, which is a one-of-a-kind colourway. Absolutely beautiful. And this is a different base than I'm normally used to for knitting socks, but it's got Polworth in it. It's a mix with nylon, so it's still great for socks, but Polworth is not something I've really used very much before for knitting with. And actually I find it really lovely and squishy. So I looked up the Polworth sheep breed, and it said it's the breed originates from a mixture of Lincoln Longwool sheep and Merino. So it's mostly got the Merino characteristics, but it's got a longer staple length, which makes it a stronger and nicer wool in some ways. Not quite as soft as Merino, but it is really quite soft. It's near enough Merino to me. And there's some absolutely gorgeous speckles in there. I definitely use this again. Really, really lovely base. So Diane, you should get some more of this in your shop. It's lovely. And this colourway is absolutely beautiful. I hope she decides to copy, to make it again, so other people can get hold of it too. So I finished one sock of the Wildflower Honey socks, but I've started a second one. I've just attempted to put these on the sock blockers, but they're obviously not finished. So I've just finished the heel flap and gusset, and I've picked up on the one side, but not the other one of these socks. But I'm really enjoying those, and it's not going to take me any time at all to whip down the foot, because it's all just plain stitch there. And then I shall have a nice finished pair of socks. These are actually going to be a Christmas present, I've already decided, for one of my friends, which I'm not naming in case she's watching. But I really love these, absolutely beautiful. I almost kept them myself, but I thought I better start on my Christmas knitting. So that's my first work in progress, and my second is the doodler. I shall get it out. This I've been meaning to cast on for ages, and after me asking if anybody wanted to do a knit along and lots of people replying, I was just like, yeah, we need to cast this on. So this is what I've got so far. So like I said, we've got a knit along going on. You can't really see it because it's sort of curling up the way I'm holding it. So we've got a knit along going on, and we've got lots of people entering and using such different colourways. They look beautiful. So if you go over to the Ravelry group, there's lots of pictures of people's finished and colour choices for this, so it'd be really interesting if you did have a look. There's lots of ends hanging there, if you can see. So I started on this edge, and if you are knitting this, I think when I started on the first section I did get slightly confused, but only because I wasn't reading the pattern properly. Just make sure you read whether it says to knit to so many stitches to the end of the row or so many stitches from the last point you knitted to. Just remember that. So I've used two colourways so far. This one is Looking Glass Fibre Arts in the aubergine colourway, and this darker sort of purpley pinky colour, and then this light blue is a Life in the Long Grass colourway, and I can't actually remember what the colour's called, but I shall get the labels out of the bag. So that's the tag from the Looking Glass Fibre Arts, and she can be found on Etsy, a shop there, just Looking Glass Fibre Arts. And then the light blue is called Silver Sky, and that's the, what base is that? I don't think they've named the base one here. Oh, it just says Fingering Socks, so that's Life in the Long Grass in the Silver Sky colourway. And I will be using a third colour, which is this one, and this is also Life in the Long Grass, and this one is called Storyteller, so that one will be included in it as well. It's a really, really interesting pattern. Absolutely love knitting it. Each of the wedges that you knit is just, oh, it's so exciting to get onto the next wedge. So you can see, oh, I'm not holding this up very well and my needles are clanging everywhere. So I started on this edge and I've been doing sections going that way. I need a glamorous assistant to hold my knitting up for so I can point at it properly instead of bashing the needles on the table. There we go. So it looks like a kind of a butterfly wing. Really cute. it is actually look wavier than it does on the screen because it's curling up slightly. But there are some, well, there's one picture at the moment of it on my Instagram page, which you can see it better. Actually, I'll pop that photograph in here so you can have a look at it on a flat surface. So that's my doodler. I'd love it if you came and knitted along with me in my Ravelry group. It's really lovely seeing how excited everyone's getting about the colourways. Really exciting. So that's my second work in progress. My third work in progress is my hat. Now, I don't really need to show you this because I ripped it right back. I ripped it right back to this point, and I've started knitting it again. And in fact, I showed you more than this last time, but I'd made a mistake. There's increases and decreases, and they're really easy to follow. It's just that I wasn't concentrating, too busy talking. So that's the Liguria hat, and the pattern is by, oh, I haven't written it down, I'll have to get it out again. So the pattern is by Katrin Schubert, and it's absolutely beautiful. I do have a picture here to show you what it will look like. So that's what it's going to look like in the end, hopefully, if I ever finish it. I wanted it to be absolutely just right, because if I get increases or decreases wrong, you'll end up with the wrong stitch count if they're incorrect. So I really wanted to rip it back and do it again. But I really, really love the brioche. It's such a really squishy, lovely, big, chunky knit. Really lovely. So I forgot to say, the yarn is Knit Picks Stroll. I won't bother going through the colourways again because I showed you them last time. They're heathered colourways anyway. So I have another couple of works in progress, but I haven't done much on those. But my last one that I'm actually going to talk about is my Cozy Memories blanket. So this is what it looks like now. It's like a rectangle at the moment, and you can see that there's a crazy red square that I've put in, and I'm thinking, should I have put that crazy red square in? What do you think? So I've done a whole row since the last time I've showed it to you. So what I've tried to do is follow on from the yarns before. So this far column is all hedgerow yarns, and I've used one of my little minis that I bought from Hedgerow Yarns, which came in a little set, and it didn't actually say what the individual colourway was, but it's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm going to have to buy another mini skein set, even though I've used one from that set. So on the next row, these were the yarns that I'd had in a swap with Emma from Eldenwood Craft, and I've just popped another one of those on the end, so I'm continuing on that theme. And it's a lovely sort of deep greeny brown there. The next row was my fondant fibre row, and this one, oh gosh, I can't remember what the colourway was now, but it's from one of her mini skein sets. Lovely Deb's colourways are always really gorgeous, and I've got plenty more of those to go in. So the next row I was given in a swap with the lovely Miriam, and this one is a bright red, and it's a gorgeous red, but when I look at it, I don't know whether that red's a bit too bright. Anybody think I should take it out? So there we are, that was from Miriam. My next row is then my Rainbow Cloud row, and this is one of the minis that I'd got in one of the sets from Cassia, from Rainbow Cloud on Etsy, and it's beautiful. I'm sorry I can't remember any of these colourways because I've taken the labels off the minis, which is really silly. And then finally I've got a row here that I swapped with the lovely Kelly, who happens to be the dyer from Lakeside Yarns, and these she sent me before she started doing her proper online Etsy business, and this is a lovely purple colour. I can't quite remember what this one was either, but it was from lovely Kelly. So I've got a whole row finished on my blanket. What I'm going to do next is do a row to make it square again, because it looks lovely when it's square. Oh dear. I know somebody else who agrees with that. So that's my blanket. It actually feels like it's starting to be a blanket. I can go to sleep now. Oh dear. Anyway, I shan't go to sleep. I'll chat to you longer, unless you're asleep already from listening to me. So that's my Cozy Memories blanket. Next I'm going to talk to you about a bit of spinning. So after I'd watched a couple of podcasts where they've been doing some spinning as well, it was Amy from the Stranded Dye Works podcast and Amber from the Yarn Hoard had also been spinning, so I decided to pick up my spinning again. Now, I started spinning this fibre absolutely ages ago. I cannot believe I left it for so long. The thing is, once I'd left it for quite a while, I couldn't remember how many twists per inch I'd put on the first section. So I was thinking, oh, I can't do it if I can't remember what the twists per inch were. I thought, sod it. So I'd finished spinning what the fibre I'd got. Don't look at my terrible spinning. So I think I was trying to go for a DK. So I just carried on how I thought it was. I got a little sample that I'd spun and hang up on my wheel to see what I was heading for. So I was trying to go for that, but without knowing how many twists per inch, I don't know if it's going to be okay once I ply it. So I'm going to ply those, hopefully by the next podcast. But it's a lovely, pretty blue and green colourway. So I got the fibre from a shop on Etsy called Gone Woolly that my friend Rose runs. Now the yarn is a merino top that I bought, so I'm not quite sure what I'll knit with it afterwards, but it is coming up in lovely colours. I'll probably just hang it up and look at it. I've got an absolutely bucket full of hand spun yarn that I've kept. And I don't often knit with my own hand spun, which I should do really. I'll have to look at some projects that I can knit with my hand spun. So that's my spinning section. It's rather a small one, so hopefully I'll get it finished by next time, so to show you some actual finished yarn. So the next section I'm going to talk about is sewing. So I'd shown this piece on the last podcast, and I've actually framed it. I don't know how well you're going to actually be able to see this. You can see my wallpaper reflected in it, which is not ideal. It might be a good idea if I took it out of the frame. So this piece of fabric I dyed. So this is the original colour, well, without the net over it. So it was a sort of a pale green, and I made these sort of mountainscapes using Markle paint sticks. Now somebody was asking me how I created this effect. So what I did was literally, I took a piece of A4 white paper and I tore it into a sort of a hillside shape so I could create this sort of shape with a stencil. So this is just from the edge of a ripped piece of paper. And I used these Markle paint sticks. Now this is one. This is one I haven't opened just yet, just so that I haven't got mess all over the table when I'm trying to podcast. Because they are actually proper oil paints, so they're called Markle paint sticks. Does it actually say Markle on there, what I'm showing you? Oh yes, it just says there. This particular one, it says this is mauve, but you can get them in lots of different colours. You can see that there's a plastic coating over here, and it's like a sort of a crayon sort of shape. And this is oil paint. So when you get it, you take your plastic off and you use a knife to just take the top of the paint off because it's sort of dried solid, and then you can use that to transfer onto different surfaces and paint from there. So once I'd ripped my paper, I drew down the side of the paper onto the paper with the Markle paint stick, and then I used some stippling brushes to brush across the paint onto the fabric. So I ended up with this is the side where the paper was, so it was darker right up against where the paper was, and then it gets a bit lighter from using the stippling brush. Oh, I'm sorry you can see a reflection. You can see my window as well with my plastic up there. Stop it glaring. I've actually taken it out of the frame so you can see it properly. So there we are. So you can see the edge where I've put the torn paper drawn onto the paper with the marker paint stick and then used the stippling brushes to move the paint onto the fabric. And I did this in 3 places to form like a landscape. So then what I did is started doing some embroidery. I used a back stitch to go across the furthest of the hills, and then a sort of quilting stitch across here, and then I used some brown embroidery thread to embroider a tree, and then some sheep in different depths of perspective. So this is the largest one, and you should just be able to see his head and his little legs there. Not sure if you can see it on camera. So then I used some small straight stitches to look like grass on the bottom of the landscape, and added some clumps of grass in the odd places. I didn't want to put too much on, and then I decided the sky needed something, so I've added some tulle, which is actually from my wedding dress. So I cut a piece to cover the whole sky, and then I cut little smaller pieces to sort of make it look like there was more clouds there. So that's all finished, and I've used some mountain board just to finish it off a little bit. I'm not sure whether I think that this is too white, this mountain board, to go with this picture and the frame I've put it in, but I can always change that. So hopefully you can see it better now it's out of the frame and not had glass reflecting the light everywhere. So my next bit of embroidery is some freehand stuff that I've been doing, and this is some sort of fireworks that I've been stitching with some French knots and some chain stitch and some rope stitch there. I have undone some of the stitches that I'd made because I didn't like them, and there's still some holes sort of showing in the fabric, but hopefully I can get rid of those. So you can see this is one of the pieces of fabric that I'd hand dyed, and I'll show you a few more of those later. But this is going to be a needle case for my DPN needles, which will be lovely. I was thinking of doing some hand stitch writing, saying needles up the side. So I'll hopefully have got most of that done by the next episode. I really love French knots. You can't beat those. And the light isn't brilliant on there. There we go. Hopefully I'll have better light next time, not leaving it to such a late point in the day. So actually I'd already started doing the inside of the needle case, and you can see that I've got a little zip pocket and a little heart pocket just there with some buttons and some places to put lots of needles. There's 2 sets of pockets here, so I can get the longer 20cm and the shorter 15cm DPNs in there. So that should be lovely, hopefully. So those 2 pieces will go together to form one thing. Oh, what I was going to mention to you is that I had a little look, because I was trying to think of what other stitches I could do, and I used a book called the Quilters and Patchworkers Stitch Bible, and it just gives you an idea of all the different stitches that you could sort of use. That's where I got the idea for using the rope stitch and the chain stitch from. So I'd recommend this as a good sort of dictionary for different hand quilting stitches that you can do. Excuse me. So I really found that useful, and hopefully I'm going to try out all of the stitches so that I can just think, oh yes, I will do this stitch, instead of thinking, oh, I don't know what I'm going to stitch on there. Instead of just using the normal stitches that I use, like back stitch and French knots. Right, so more embroidery, but this time it's cross stitch. So I've been working on this pattern that I actually bought it from a charity shop. Full kit, like as if it hadn't been touched. Absolutely beautiful. So that's what it'll look like in the end, hopefully. And I've been working on this middle section here, and so far I've actually cut off the top because I got it in the frame, but I've got the flowers in the centre, which I've showed you before, and I've done 2 little dogs, and then started this little motif below it, which will have 2 birds either side. So I've done the little crown with the heart. And I've started to use the technique where you actually take one thread, fold it so that the loop is at the bottom and thread the 2 cut ends through the needle, and then when you come under your work and then go back in, you can just loop it through the loop at the back, if that makes sense. I had heard of it before, but somebody put a comment on one of the videos, I think it might have been the last episode, just saying, oh, you should do it like that, and I tried it and I love it. I'm never going to go back. I was a bit concerned that because the threads are already being cut in the kit, that they would be a bit short, but actually it's quite nice having a really short thread so you don't ever get tangled and things, so that's lovely. And you may notice that I've been using my Q-snap frame. Absolutely love this. I'd seen it on a number of podcasts. I know that Emma from Eldenwood Craft and Ruth from Literarium, I'd seen them using these, but I never thought to ask them what they were. And I know the last person I saw with it was the Tina from Simply in Stitches podcast, and I asked her what they were, and I said, is it worth getting? She said yes. She is absolutely right. It's so light, and because it's sort of wider here, it's much easier to grip onto, so I definitely recommend having one of these. The only thing is, in the UK they're pretty difficult to get hold of and quite expensive. I actually got 2 frames. I've buried the other one in the, oh, here we go. So I bought a 6-inch and an 8-inch frame off eBay second hand, which practically is as much as 1 frame, I think. So I saved a little bit of money on there, and also it's really difficult to get hold of them, and they take forever to get here from the US. I couldn't wait. So I'm really pleased with those. And I will be making one of those covers for the Q-snap frame that will then hold my fabric away from the back of my work so that it doesn't get on my nerves. I don't know what they're called, but I'm sure most of you know what I mean. So I'm really enjoying sewing this now, especially now I've got this proper frame. Those of you who haven't watched the podcast before, my needle minders from Chapel View Crafts on Etsy. I've got quite a few progress keepers from Cheryl as well. So there we go, that's my cross stitch. And I think that's all my embroidery for this time. So now we're on to bobbin lace. Now I haven't done loads on this, I'm going to have to quickly exit from shot. This is what I've done so far, and I thought because I've taken some of the pins out you can see the work a lot better, and that's going to go all around in a circle like a doily, and I'm really enjoying making that, but they do take quite a long time. So if I rest this on the table I can describe it. So here, this is sort of one section where you've got this pink bit at the top going down with the more lacy part with the more solid part all the way to there. That's I sort of consider as one section. That takes me about 2 hours, so it's quite time consuming. I'm sure people who do bobbin lace do it quicker than me, but that is so much fun. You can see how many pins are in the sort of lower section where I've done most recently, how it sort of stops you from seeing what the pattern looks like, but I've taken quite a lot of the pins out of there and just got pins at the edges to hold the piece flat. Oh, this is really heavy. Oh, so there we go, there's my bobbin lace. I'm hopefully going to have a little bit more done on that by the next time, but because you could see more of the work without the pins, I thought I'd show you, even though I've only done about 1 repeat since the last time I showed it to you. Right, so I've put my cloths over the top to protect it from the dust. And I'm back. So, what have I got to show you now? Oh, so I showed you just now some embroidery with the pieces of fabric that I'd been dyeing. So I did a dyeing day, which sounds a bit strange, a day teaching me how to do different dyeing techniques. Now we did, well, we watched some demonstrations on how to do ice dyeing, which I'm definitely going to have a go at. Really, really lovely effects. And then we did some dyeing with Procyon dyes, which you use to dye cotton fabric. Now I did, like, these look scruffy at the edges because they haven't been cut with scissors, they've been torn. But I did a pile of different colours, like in rainbow. So I've got like a purple, I've used some of that already, so you can see how there's a sort of texture where it's been scrumpled up. So I really like the effect of that. I'll show you a couple of different colours. There's a green. They're a little bit wrinkled because they've been screwed up in a cup to dye them. So I really enjoyed that because you get a really nice textured effect of the dye rather than a solid dye. We also did some shaving foam dyeing, which mine came out quite a bit of a mess, really. There we go. That's a little example of what mess I was making. I also managed to get lots of paint on me as well. Good job I was wearing a pinny at the time. So I'm definitely going to do lots more dyeing, especially with the Procyon dyes for dyeing cotton fabric. You'll probably see some new bag designs in hand-dyed fabric as well, coming up in my Etsy shop in a month or so. Or maybe even before, I don't know. So that was a really enjoyable dyeing day. So it was about 2 weeks ago, and it was a Saturday, and it was as part of the Norfolk Quilters. We do some classes sometimes, and it was just a day of all different dyeing techniques. It was just great fun. We called it a messy day, and it certainly was. So that was really good fun, and I'll definitely be doing more of that. So next I've got to talk to you about the blast from the past. So this is something I made absolutely ages ago, and it's a little crocheted bowl, and you can see that I keep my hair clips and my hair bubbles in there. So this is made from a really sort of stiff yarn that's made out of polyester and acrylic. And what's it called? I've written it down. It's called Anchor Style Miro, and I'm not even sure whether they make this anymore, but they might do something similar. You could probably do this with string, to be honest. So the pattern is Vanity Basket Trio by Julia Croyan, I think. And this is one of the 3 patterns that she's got on this. I think it was a free pattern. And it's just great for putting little bits and bobs in. I've also got one of these that I used for like popping makeup in, just in the cupboard in the bathroom. So they're really useful, and I keep meaning to make another couple of these, but I've had them absolutely ages and ages, and they're great little fun little crochet project. I should really do some more crochet. I haven't done any for ages. There's so many things to do. So that was my blast from the past. The next section I'm going to talk about is Gadget. So this is a little bit different, this Gadget. I have to bend down onto the floor. Sorry about the view of my arm. So this is a bit of a weird gadget. So these are trouser hangers that I've been using to keep my shawls together. I think they're fantastic. So it's kind of a gadget. So these are trouser hangers, plastic trouser hangers, so you can hang like 5 pairs of trousers at the same time. But I've been using them to keep my shawls. Absolutely brilliant. Simple but very effective. I used to keep my shawls in the drawer and I could never see what I'd got, but now I've got about 4 hangers full and I can see exactly what I've got, what colours go with what top. Absolutely brilliant. So I definitely recommend those. So that was a nice little quick little gadget this time, and now we're going to move on to confessions. So I'd seen Alice Yarns and recently followed her on Instagram. And then I thought, oh, her yarn is lovely. But I was in a strong mood, so I didn't buy any. But then Ruth on Knitterarium put a picture of a yellow skein, and I was like, I need some Alice Yarns. So I purchased some yarn. So the big skein is a lovely speckled yarn. So Alice Yarn is a separate website rather than being on Etsy. If you just put Alice Yarns into Google, it'll come straight up with their website, and you can tell by a logo whether you're on the right website there. And this yarn is absolutely beautiful speckle. This is the high twist base. and this is called Wildflowers. Absolutely beautiful colours there. I think this is probably going to be a pair of socks, and I know I shouldn't buy yarn just for socks randomly, but I needed it. And then I had to buy these as well. So I'd seen Ruth had got a yellow skein, but they didn't have, Alice didn't have any this on a large skein, so I decided to have a mini instead. So I've bought some really lovely colours. I'm not showing these very well, sorry. Really pretty. So I wonder if the colourway is written on the back. No, it isn't. It does say online actually, but I haven't been organised enough to go and write down what they all are. But they're all really pretty. And I think if you bought 6, you got 20% off, so I had to buy 6. So there we go. And I thought actually it might be nice to do heels in the yellow to go with that. That would be really lovely. So that was my Alice purchase. And the yarn actually feels really squishy. It's definitely one of the really high quality ones. I can't wait to cast those on. And also because of Ruth at Knitwear, she made me buy these too. Well, just because she's always got this really lovely yarn on her Instagram page. And I wanted to try some Eden Cottage yarns. And these are reflecting a little bit as well. But these are a little mini set that they sell, and I thought, well, it's a lovely little treat, isn't it? See if I can sort of open the box so that they don't fall out. And there's 5 lovely little 5-gram skeins to try out, and I thought that would be lovely in my Cozy Memories blanket. Yay! And I picked these purple and pinks and greys. There was quite a few different colourway sets that you could choose off the website, and they were quite reasonable for just a little set. And because I thought, well, I can't really justify ordering a full skein when I've purchased so much at Fibre East. But we won't talk about that. I'd also I'm feeling a little bit Christmassy even though it's in August. Actually, this is in July, so that's even worse. I'd seen Cheryl from Chapel View Crafts had put some of these Christmas... Oh, let me open the little bag, you can't see. These little Christmas needle keepers. Absolutely so cute. I could not resist. I had to have one. So I won't probably use it as a scissor keeper like it's sold as. I think I'll put it on my project bag on the outside, on my Christmas bag to go for my Christmas projects. Woohoo! So that's really lovely. Cheryl makes the most sort of lovely detailed little items. So I'll pop that back in the bag ready for Christmas. I'm sure I'm going to be starting my Christmas knitting very, very soon. And lastly, my lovely friend Jo, thank you so much Jo, gave me this wonderful, wonderful book and this beautiful fabric. And she said that I definitely am going to enjoy using it, but she seems to know me so well. Thank you so much, Jo. This fabric is absolutely beautiful. It's got my favourite sort of pinks and like a mustard colours in there, as well as sort of a navy. Absolutely gorgeous. So this will probably be a top. I haven't actually measured how much there, so we'll just see what I can get out of it. And also this beautiful book. So Jo knows that I really want to go into London and have a look at the sort of knitting and sewing shops, and this book tells you all about it, and there's some wonderful tips about which places to go, and just about what all the different places, what they sell. There's one of the pages showing you inside the shops. I won't show you too much because obviously it's a paid for book. Oh, there's such lovely places. I need to go to London now. So that's got some really good tips in there. Thank you so much, Jo. And I hope you don't mind me mentioning such lovely gifts you sent me. So that's my confession. So it's not too bad. Well, it is if you count all the stuff from Fibre East as well. No more yarn and no more, well, maybe fabric. No more yarn until at least a month. I'm on a yarn diet. Oh dear. So I've got 2 more sections to go. I've got the Ask Me Anything section, and then also I'm going to talk about some of the knit-along prizes that I've got for the 2 knit-alongs that I've talked about so far. So on the Ask Me Anything, actually it's Jo who gave me these as well, gave me a lovely gift. She asked me a question and I completely forgot to answer it on the last podcast, so I'm going to attempt to answer it now. Sorry, Jo. So the question is, I like the way this is phrased, Jo, it's brilliant. In sewing, I often do full bust adjustments because I'm boobalicious. I love that, it's brilliant. Sorry. Does a similar adjustment exist for knitting? Well, so Jo's talking about knitting garments. I haven't knitted loads and loads of garments, but what I do is I just make sure that I measure bust area and hip area, and I follow the stitch count for the size of each part. So say if I'm bigger in the hip than in the bust, I just make sure that I increase to the right stitch number where I need the space. So, but there's no sort of complicated bust adjustment like there is in sewing. Actually, if anybody knows more about this than me, it'd be really interesting to see what tips you guys have got. So if you've got any tips for Jo, and me as well, if you pop them in the either down below in the comments box or in the Ravelry group. Ravelry group's probably better actually, because I know Jo uses the Ravelry group quite a lot, and I think a lot of you do as well. So thank you, Jo, for that question, and I'm so sorry I forgot to answer it on the last podcast because she'd got 2 questions and I got carried away with the first one. So we've got another 2 questions, and these are from the lovely Viv, who's Vivy Knits on Ravelry. So thank you ever so much, Viv, and I know that we saw each other from a distance at Fibre East. We will meet again. So Viv was asking where I got my Hogwarts wooden box, which I've got up there, whereabouts I got it from, because she thought it was really cool. I got it from an antique shop on Magdalen Street in Norwich, but I'm afraid they don't sell them anymore. So the antique shop has areas that people rent out, small sort of sections, sort of shops, and the person that sold on that section I don't think is there anymore. At least they haven't got the Harry Potter sort of based things. I'm really sorry. But I'm sure if you found somebody who did lots of woodwork, they might make one for you. So I'm sorry I can't help you, Viv, with that one. But she also asked a second question. She's noticed that I wear this necklace quite often. Hopefully I don't give you too much of a boob shot. So I wear this necklace all the time, and she asked me whether it was a symbol or anything significant. So it's not actually a symbol or anything. Well, at least I don't know if it means anything. But I really like Celtic jewellery, and Adam bought it for me. I think it was, I can't actually remember, it was a birthday or Christmas, and because he bought it for me, it's kind of special, so I wear it all the time. And I always love a bit of Celtic jewellery. I've got Celtic earrings on as well, if you can just about see that. I won't put my face really close to the camera because that will be quite disturbing. Oh dear. So thank you, Viv. That's a lovely couple of questions you sent. Thank you so much. So if you want to ask me anything, if you go into the Ravelry group, there's a thread called Ask Me Anything. If you pop your questions in there, and I'll answer them on the next podcast. So thank you so much, Jo and Viv, for that. So lastly, I'm going to talk about the knit-along prizes. So like I said, we've got the summer sock along, and we've got 4 prizes for that. First of all, we've got a lovely skein of yarn, and this is from Teresa Shingler. I'm trying not to show you this code that's on the back. So this absolutely stunning high twist yarn for making socks. This is 100% wool. And it comes with a code on the back of this ticket for a copy of lovely Teresa's crescent sock pattern. Really, really beautiful with delicate leaves on there, and it's really appropriate because they're both lace and they're short socks as well. So that's one of the prizes. We also have a lovely set of mini skeins from Kelly from Lakeside Yarn, and if you're interested in these colours, if you look on Lakeside Yarn on Etsy, I think Kelly's got quite a few lovely little mini skeins on there as well. And so the mini skeins come with the set of lovely progress keepers from Cheryl at Chapel View Crafts. So Cheryl's on Chapel View Crafts on Etsy as well, like I mentioned before. And if you remember, I bought a set of these for myself and I bought an extra set for you guys. So those will come as another prize. So we also have the lovely Lovely Lee from Lou Lee on Etsy and also on Ravelry has given us a set of the patterns that she designed. They're the Simple Sock collection. So if you remember, I've knitted the socks with holes in and the short socks with ventilation. So those are two of the patterns in the collection, so you'll get the 4 patterns all together. One's the simple sock and the other one's almost ribbed as well. I think I've got that correctly, hopefully. So last prize is one of my sock size bags, and I'll wait till I find out the winner and I'll ask what sort of fabrics you like, so I'll make that especially for you in this sort of frame the ideas you give me. So then, now we've also got the Doodlealong. So the first prize that I'm going to announce on the podcast is this lovely, lovely bag. And it's by Deb from Fondant Fibre. And it's got a gorgeous little bird on the little head. There's it there, so cute. I bought this for myself and I thought, I really can't justify buying any more bags, so I thought I'd share the love with you guys. It's got this gorgeous little bird fabric on it, absolutely beautiful, and it's a really good size for a shawl, so I thought that's really appropriate for the Doodlealong. I can't say it now, it's a bit of a mouthful. So that will be one of the prizes. I'll announce more of the prizes as we go further along into the knit along. So I should say that the Doodlealong started on the 1st of August and it will go all the way till the end of October. So you have ages to knit it. So hopefully, even if you're the slowest knitter, we'll be okay. Because I know, for me personally, sometimes 2 months for a shawl is a little bit tight, especially when you're trying to knit lots of other projects. But actually, I think 3 months is going to be okay. And if you've already knitted some of the Doodlealong, if you've already knitted some of the Doodler, you can still join in as long as it's under about 50%. Just to get everyone all excited about their yarn choices and everything. It's going to be so much fun. So some of you have been asking me how difficult the Doodler is. I actually think that the Doodler is one of the simpler patterns from Stephen West, and it does not contain any brioche. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't know if it's too hard, you can do it, I'm sure you can, and we can help each other. If anyone gets stuck, we can answer questions. And I know that once you get to section 3, Stephen West has got some videos that show you exactly what to do. Although I noticed he hasn't got one for the very first section. But I tried to explain earlier when I was talking about my shawl, what things I come across that I found a little bit confusing. But it was only confusing because I hadn't actually read the pattern properly. Because I get too excited and I want to just get on with it. So, like I said, I'll announce more prizes in the next podcast or the one after, whenever. We've got 3 whole months to knit the Doodler, and I hope you can come and join us. It's so lovely to see everyone's choices of yarns and everything. So I think that's everything for today. I've got a whole area of chaos around me, so I better go and tidy up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Have a great crafty week. Bye!